for hollow diagnostics. I was at his funeral.
Hi guys, welcome back to Xcom 2 War of the Chosen.
He survived Auschwitz.
It's a modded core collection. We're at the kind of the end of the game type thing. Lots to do though.
Lived to see today.
Let's see.
I can't even imagine what that means. This was someone who went on and up to he was 97 years old to teach others the lessons of this. The equivocation or the false equivocation by the Biden administration is a lie. Rebecca pointed out what Israel does. There's so many steps before a strike. I have been there. I have seen this play out. I have briefly. This is something they do to preserve life because of their belief in life. If they're not sure it's a terrorist, they will not strike. It's that simple at times. And they are faced with people who will strike at them, strike at aid workers, they had ambulances earlier today, and so much more.
Yep, and keep in mind there are 5 American hostages. They're babies. Fear Beavis, his brother Ariel Beavis. Keep our focus on that. All right, the judge in former President Trump's criminal trial is warning of jail time if Trump keeps violating a gag order. We'll have a live report on all the latest.
Time to take out the boss.
This tiny home trend, not for me. Now this is more like it. Same goes for my footwear. So I went hands-free with wide fit Skechers slip-ins. Just step in and go without bending down or touching my shoes. Wide fit hands-free Skechers slip-ins.
Egan, the #1 rated brand in cordless outdoor power, brings you the Select Cut mower. Customize the cut with 3 interchangeable blades. It cuts for over an hour on a single charge. Egan, exclusively Lowe's, Ace, and Egan authorized dealers.
Every American wants their dollars to work as hard as they do. However, since 2000, the buying power of the dollar has dropped by over 31%. That means the dollar is only worth about 68 cents now compared to 2000. Had you owned gold, your value would have increased over 700%. And owning gold is easy. With Roslyn Capital, a trusted leader in helping people acquire precious metals.
I think it's this one.
Lady Liberty Gold and Silver proofs. And our premium coins can help you preserve your wealth. Call Roslyn Capital at 800-630-8900 to receive your free Roslyn Guide to Gold, Gold and Precious Metals IRA, and Silver brochures. With Roslyn, there are no hassles, no gimmicks, and we have the fastest shipping around. $1 down, gold up. Pretty clear. Make gold your new standard. Call Roslyn Capital today at 800-630-8900. 800-630-8900. That's 800-630-8900.
Okay. Well, I have a specialist here.
She thinks her flaky gray passion for all people see.
Otezla is the #1 prescribed pill to treat plaque psoriasis.
Just a quick phone call, no big deal. Okay.
comes to drugs, how much freedom is too much for kids? Drugs are murder. Will my team feel free to say no for their kids? I feel drug-free officer. To my kids. Drugs worry me. Feel free to talk about kids.
Questions about drugs and kids? Call or chat to get real-time support.
Criminal trial of former President Trump. The Trump Organization's one-time controller, Jeff McConney, is on the witness stand. And earlier this morning, the judge threatened to throw Trump in jail over his gag orders. He claims that the $1,000 fines are not worth it. Let's go live to Eric Shawn, who is outside the New York State Supreme Court. Eric.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, from the Oval Office to a jail cell. Could that be former President Trump's fate if he continues to follow Judge Shawn's gag orders?
The judge is totally confident. It's totally contradicted, and you want to take a look at it. And I'm not supposed to be talking about it, but I am allowed to say that the judge has a conflict that like nobody's ever had before. You to take a look at it. He's taken away my constitutional right to speak.
The defendant continues to rail against these proceedings and the gag order, even though the former president, it potentially could cost him his freedom. Judge Shawn ruled that Trump's, quote, vitriol and dangerous rhetoric has to stop, telling the former president directly, quote, the last thing I want to consider is jail. You are the former president, and possibly the next president. The magnitude of that decision is not lost on me. Your continued willful violation of the court's order constitutes a direct attack on the rule of law and will not be allowed to continue. In court, former Trump Organization controller Jeff McConney testified how the company reimbursed Michael Cohen for the money he laid out to pay off Stormy Daniels, but was unaware about any deal. Even if the email approved the payment for legal services, he was not aware that any of Cohen's payments or that the purpose of that money actually, since he was told about legal services, he didn't know anything about any type of deal or agreement. He also said some of the checks were drawn from the personal checking account, but it's important to note that it was not tied in the president at all, in any way, directly, with no agreements or part of a deal to cover up the story. It's just that they were marked, as the defense says, as legal expenses. Back to you.
And Shawn, live outside of the courthouse. Thank you. All right, David Webb, what's your take?
No matter how far they go with the public arguments or narratives over the president, the biggest challenge is in that room, is there one juror who's going to listen to the facts of what New York law is and its limitations and the inability to bring that up to a federal law. And I know that the gag orders and all of that is on the table, but it takes one juror, it takes one person to say you cannot charge that. They tried to extend statute of limitations. I know you're the better attorney than I am. I play one on radio, maybe, but the facts are there. New York law does not meet federal law. Also, what is the second crime? The second crime has never been stated by the prosecution, to the best of my knowledge. What is the second crime that he was committing these acts in order to create?
Harris, what do you make of the bubbling up of the gag orders and now this threat of incarceration? To David's point, all it takes is one juror, but also all it takes is a lot of Americans watching their former president be seemingly persecuted for nothing and then thrown in jail for nothing.
Well, the Democrats are playing a political game at this point. They're not winning. Because they have made a martyr out of a former president that they had hoped to beat. It is very hard to beat someone when you make them much bigger. When you make the job much harder, and you're not doing your job to the point where the American people are telling you in the polls what they think about how they're really feeling and what they think of you as a candidate and as a current president. So it's not helping them. And any kind of delay in this process, I've said it before, is a defeat for Democrats. They want it to be adjudicated. They want it to be as painful and salacious as possible for the man on trial, because that helps their candidate for president. I do want to say this about what David said. You know, what is the second crime? What is the first crime? What is it that they're showing us? And without that, how can he get a fair trial if he doesn't really know what the crime is against him? I don't know how you defend that.
Right. Likely going to be a question before appeal if it gets that far. Hopefully. Yeah, and they don't care if they're appealing. I don't think the prosecutors care. They want a conviction for Election Day. But this entire trial should be an in-kind contribution to the Republican Party. It is such a farce. We've already been through how it's unprecedented. The New York Times has admitted that much. But you're going to threaten him with jail time? Do you know what the American people see? They see Michael Cohen, according to Trump's attorney, out on TikTok making money, according to Trump's attorney, shopping a TV show. And then Trump is being screamed at by reporters, asked about every detail of the case, and he can't answer the questions? And then if he does answer the questions, the judge threatens to throw him in jail? This is ridiculous. It defies common sense, which is why the whole trial is an in-kind contribution to the Republican Party. So well done. It's backfired. And well said. All right, on to this topic. Former Fulton County Trump prosecutor Nathan Wade is now speaking out about his affair with the Georgia District Attorney Bonnie Willis. Now, Wade resigned from Trump's election interference case last month, but is now defending his workplace romance with Willis. Watch.
Workplace romances are as American as apple pie. It happens to everyone. But it happened to the two of us.
Do you regret it?
I regret that private matter became the focal point of this very important prosecution.
I'm sorry, as American as apple pie, I don't consider affairs as American as apple pie. Yes, I don't know why I got that image in my head of like eating apple pie and having to think about Nathan Wade's body lover. And you're trying to put your workplace romance. I thought this was an affair, first of all. I thought he was married. Maybe I'm wrong. Please correct me if I am. He said if marriage technically ended, they could talk about it for whatever his explanation. An affair should not be classified as a great American tradition like apple pie, the 4th of July, or the American flag, or Major League Baseball. But leave it to Nathan Wade. Put that one right back. He says he only regrets the fact that the personal sort of obfuscated the public life and what they're trying to do and whatever, essentially regarding the message that it created. No regrets for the actual illicit affair.
No, and I couldn't get over the fact that the interviewer was asking him, but, democracy was on the line. So couldn't you just not do this? Because democracy's on the line, a free and open society, democratic rule, Western civilization in the balance. Couldn't you have stopped for that? And he basically said, he didn't have the self-control. Yes, you do all of this for democracy, but he wouldn't do that.
Yeah, well, I don't have self-control when it comes to apple pie, but I do when it comes to cheating on my wife. I never do it.
All right, guys, this next anti-Israel protesters are bashing President Biden for his handling of the Israel-Hamas war. But many of them are reportedly being funded by some of Biden's biggest donors. That story next.
Here's to getting better days.
Here's to beating these two every Thursday.
Help fuel today with Boost High Protein. Complete nutrition you need without the stuff you don't. So, here's to now. Boost!
Mom genes. She passed them down to you. But who passed them to her? Ancestry DNA can show her who and where her genes came from. Best of all, it's on sale for Mother's Day. Get it now, before she has to remind you. Type 2 diabetes, discover the Ozempic.
Oh, we did.
I got the power of 3. I lowered my A1C, CV risk, and lost some weight. In studies, the majority of people reached an A1C under 7 and maintained it.
I'm under 7.
Ozempic lowers the risk of major cardiovascular events such as stroke, heart attack, or death in adults also with known heart disease. I'm lowering my risk. Adults lost up to 14 pounds.
Lost weight.
Ozempic isn't for people with type 1 diabetes. Don't share needles or pens or reuse needles. Don't take Ozempic if you or your family ever had medullary thyroid cancer or have multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2 or are allergic to it. Stop Ozempic and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or an allergic reaction. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Gallbladder problems may occur. Tell your provider about vision problems or changes. Taking Ozempic with a sulfonylurea or insulin may increase low blood sugar risk. Side effects like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may lead to dehydration, which may worsen kidney problems. Living with type 2 diabetes?
Ask about the power of 3 with Ozempic.
Veteran homeowners need cash but worried you can't get a home loan because of your credit? Here's great news. At New Day, we've been granted automatic authority by the VA to make our own loan approval decisions. In fact, if you've had credit challenges and missed a payment along the way, you're more than 5 times more likely to get approved for the New Day 100 VA cash out loan. No one knows veterans like New Day USA.
Call 1-855-510-4070. It's only a matter of time until your check engine light comes on, or worse yet, your car needs repair. That could mean a big surprise auto repair bill. Those repairs are more expensive than ever. A new engine can be over $5,000. A new transmission over $4,000. That's why it's so important you call CarShield today. CarShield is the #1 auto protection company in the country.
I like CarShield because they were reliable, they were affordable, and they were trustworthy.
I think everybody should have CarShield. Once your manufacturer's warranty is expired, there's just no big bill. If you needed repairs, CarShield was there for it.
Now it's your turn to get the peace of mind that comes with having CarShield, so you can worry less about auto repairs. Call or go online right now to get CarShield for yourself. Friendly, knowledgeable, money-saving representatives available 24 hours a day. So if your car is 20 years old or newer, just tell us the model of your car or truck to get an instant plan quote. In a matter of minutes, you can be covered.
I was elated that I had CarShield. I was more than happy.
There's no fun when you have a car that's broken and you wait for it to get it fixed.
Here's how CarShield works. When your car needs repair, you take it to your favorite mechanic or even your dealer, and CarShield gets them paid directly. That's why CarShield is America's #1 auto protection provider.
CarShield is just the best thing to take away the fear that something is going to go wrong with your car, because it will. And CarShield is going to be there to back you up. My experience with CarShield is that they absolutely come through every time.
If my car breaks down, I can count on CarShield to cover it for me. CarShield definitely has my back.
Now it's the time to make the smart choice and protect yourself from sky-high auto repair bills. Call now for a free and instant protection plan quote. It's only a matter of time until repairs are needed. And once your car breaks down, it's too late. Call 1-800-908-6039 or go to carshield.com. Get covered today.
Well, anti-Israel and Jewish hate anarchy are taking over college campuses in the United States. You know this. It's everywhere. Take a look at what right now is happening at George Washington University. People are rallying together and raising something other than the American flag. They're raising the Palestinian flag proudly on their campus. Well, what happened to the American flag? Did they take it down? What are the campus policies? Like, so many questions. And look what they did to George Washington's head. They decorated him instead. The anti-Israel protesters are also attacking President Biden, projecting an image of him over an American flag with the nickname Genocide Joe. Despite the rampant anti-American displays, President Biden has yet to take a strong stance against the campus chaos. Perhaps
Dead end.
this is the reason why. Politico is reporting those pro-Palestinian protesters, as they're called, are backed by surprising source. Biden's biggest donors. Emily, I'm talking the Rockefeller Brothers group, and George Soros, and groups that they back. I mean, this is serious stuff. The Pritzker family, the governor of Illinois, his cousin Nick and his wife Susan.
Tremendous amounts. I think what this illustrates to us is, first of all, for a group that is constantly crying to divest from Israel and to know where your money is and it's sobbing about where your 401ks are invested and the like, there's a pretty big standard of not only hypocrisy, but of also contributing money toward insidious things. So we know that we have a vice president who called for contribution to the fund for those who engaged in violent crimes during the protest of the Summer of Love to get out of jail, right? We've seen that. But at the end of the day, you have to know where your money is going to. And under this administration, it seems patently obvious to me that someone who says, oh, I donated to a Democrat cause, I donated to this group, well, you should pretty well know exactly what that means. What DA are you contributing to that will then subsequently lead to what violent felon is let out on the streets, etc.? The list goes on, but right now, I personally wouldn't be able to sleep at night if my money had gone toward this anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish demonstration hatred movement.
By the way, what you're looking at happened about 45 minutes ago when we were on Focus, and those demonstrators, rioters, I don't even know what to call these people anymore, because they certainly are pushing their way toward the riot geared up cops. breaking through barricades. This is UC San Diego, part of the University of California public school the system there. You know, Kaylee, this is more than just people, and Emily's right. I mean, morally, they should want to know where their money's going. But legally, we got to know, too. Where are all those extra IRS agents taking a look at where this money's being funded? And I was reading that for some of these groups, there's no transparency. So they give their money in, and it's hard to track.
We need to get to the bottom of this. The Wall Street Journal, everyone should read it. Activist groups train students for months before campus protests. They go into the fact that Black Panthers, former Black Panthers, train some of these folks. They go into the National Students for Justice in Palestine, who put this out as advice for these protesters. They said if someone is arrested, don't linger too long, or pigs will heading to march. The pigs, to which they were referring, presumably, the police. And then not only that, they go into the fact that Columbia, they were trying to host on campus this Resistance 101 class. And the organizers of this had celebrated October 7th. And so Columbia said, guys, you can't host this on our campus. So they took it remote. Do you want to know what the kids learned at this Resistance 101 seminar? There's nothing wrong with being a member of Hamas, being a leader of Hamas, being a fighter in Hamas. These are the people that are on the front lines defending Palestine. We need to get to the bottom of this. Columbia is now canceling their commencement. I do just want to give a shout out to my alma mater who just put out an unequivocal statement. Harvard, they will be holding their commencement. They called out the encampments and said they must end now. So it's good to see finally these institutions, some of them going in the right direction.
Columbia is so far in that, though. Because if they're doing this for security, they say they're going to get some sideline festive event to replace the commencement. Well, if you have security for one, why can't you have security for the other? Rebecca, the Jewish Voice for Peace, which explicitly describes itself as anti-Zionist, is where a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, are coming from David Rockefeller Jr., who sits on the board of Rockefeller Brothers Fund. In 2022, he gave hundreds of thousands to this Tides Foundation, and Tides given, just tied in with Jewish Voice for Peace. So the transparency is difficult because the money is being, given to one, to another.
That's true, but the other thing that strikes me in all this is, look, there should not be anti-Semitism on the left side of the political spectrum, the right side of the political spectrum. But on the left, and when you look at, it might be a small number of people, but the money is coming from some of the most powerful people in this country. So it's systemic. These are people who are wealthy, influential. And as you said, some of these people are being trained from outside the university. The GW campus presidents of the university came out and said, this isn't safe. These people are masked. We don't know who they are on the campus. That's right. They're not vetted. And so a lot of these people could come from dangerous backgrounds. They don't even know the security risk to the law-abiding people who are on campus.
David, so when do we see a situation where Joe Biden says, let me give this money back to these donors until they can tell me if their money is being funneled to terrorists?
If history repeats, never. But something that's missing here, RICO charges, while the Tides Foundation, the Pritzkers, the Soros funding for Tides and others is fungible, if you go to the groups involved in this and go by the list of what we factually know, Revolutionary Communists of America, PSL, Party for Socialism and Liberation, all these other organizations out of New York, the Palestine Free, they're working with 6 other organizations. These are RICO charges that can be brought against these groups because they're the ones doing the training. They're building this out.
You mean like what they're trying to do with President Trump, but they don't have the evidence to do it? But we can show evidence right here on this program.
The evidence.
And by the way, that terrorist word that I used, they are threatening to kill Jews on campus. They are in some of these places. We are seeing Jewish students fear for their lives. We've interviewed some of them right here on this network. So if I'm Joe Biden, I would just give that money back from some of these people, these big names, Rockefellers and the like, and Soros, and until they can tell you exactly where the money's coming from. We're monitoring the developing situation in Gaza now. It is close to nightfall there. So we've been watching to see Israel says it is going to launch an operation into the city of Rafah, the last stronghold of Hamas terrorists. President Biden spoke on the phone. Remember, I gave you the readout of that call about 20 minutes ago when it had just gotten to us. He spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and we're set to learn more at this afternoon's State Department briefing. There's so much going on. Plus, it is day 12 of former President Donald Trump's New York criminal trial, and the judge is once again threatening to throw Trump in jail if he touches his gag order with a violation. Laura Ingram. So excited. Next.
Any guys, Jack? Yeah, good luck getting fuzzy. I got it, America's best. A comprehensive quality eye exam? Yeah, and it may cost less than your regular doc. Plus, America's best has one of the nation's largest groups of optometrists. Sounds good. It is. I'll go. Good call. Don't your line. Get 40% off a single pair right now at America's Best. Because eye care is health care, and you deserve the best.
If you have chronic kidney disease, you can reduce the risk of kidney failure with Farxiga. Because there are places you like to be. Farxiga can cause serious side effects, including ketoacidosis that may be fatal, dehydration, urinary tract or genital yeast infections, and low blood sugar. A rare life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Farxiga and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this infection, an allergic reaction, or ketoacidosis.
My name is Giovanni Vitidio. 40 years ago, we started this world famous paintball business. I walk anywhere from 5 to 6 miles every single day. To run a business like this, you really need at its pessimist step. When I did across Fountain Nature, I knew this is the product because it's just not real. Fountain Nature has fruit and vegetable ingredients. With Fountain Nature, you feel great.
Get 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Call or go to balanceofnature.com and use discount code Fox News.
I'm Jonathan Lawson, here to tell you about life insurance through the Colonial Penn Program. If you're age 50 to 85 and looking to buy life insurance on a fixed budget, remember the 3 Ps.
What are the 3 Ps?
The 3 Ps of life insurance on a fixed budget are price, price, and price. A price you can afford, a price that can't increase, and a price that fits your budget.
I'm 54. What's my price?
You can get coverage for $9.95 a month.
I'm 65 and take medications. What's my price?
Also $9.95 a month.
I just turned 80. What's my price?
$9.95 a month for you too. If you're age 50 to 85, call now about the #1 most popular whole life insurance plan available through the Colonial. Options start at $9.95 a month. No medical exams, no health questions. Your acceptance is guaranteed. And this plan has a guaranteed lifetime rate lock, so your rate can never go up for any reason. So call now for free information, and you'll also get this free beneficiary plan. And it's yours free.
And you missed.
So call now for free information.
Call 1-800-700-2020 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-700-2020. Don't wait. 1-800-700-2020. Call now.
What would you like to pay to your hotel? $185, $169, or $155? Same room, same service, just different prices. It's really up to you. Well, nobody asks you this at reception, but that's exactly what Trivago does. Trivago compares hotel prices from hundreds of booking sites. So, save yourself valuable time and money. Use Trivago. Compare hotel prices and save up to $30 a night. Hotel? Trivago.
When your business throws you a surprise, don't throw in the towel. With funding you can count on, Biz2 Credit makes it simple and convenient to solve problems you never saw coming. When trouble brews, Biz2 Credit is the solution. Biz2 Credit, funding what's next.
The all-new GoDaddy Arrow helps you get your business online in minutes with the power of AI. With the perfect name, a great logo, and a beautiful
Oh, you
website.
fucking prick.
Start with the domain, a few clicks, and you're in business. Make now to feature at GoDaddy.com/Arrow.
When you can't watch, listen. Get the latest news, business, and news headlines on SiriusXM. Anytime, anywhere. Fox News Audio on SiriusXM. America is listening.
Okay.
Executive of the Trump Organization is on the witness stand right now in Trump's New York criminal trial. So moment by moment now, that's who's there. He's being cross-examined by the former president's defense team. Also, Judge Juan Merchan is threatening the president for a second time with jail time if he continues to violate his gag order. He says the $1,000 per violation are not working. Back from the judge. Here with me now, former white-collar criminal defense attorney, law clerk for Justice Thomas, and host of the Ingram angle, Laura Ingram herself. It is so good to see you, and so good to see you, to get your take on this. So we're all perched to see what's going to happen when the greatest liar on the planet, Michael Cohen, takes a stand. But until then, we've heard from these people like the comptroller today. What's your take on how things are going today?
Well, today it's more on the paper trail. So X was spent, and they make a point about what was in the note of the memo of the actual check. They made a big point today about whether the payments were approved by their legal department at the Trump organization, and noting the prosecution did that those payments were not approved, as McConney had to say, and that they went directly to Michael Cohen. So while all of this is, somewhat interesting, I guess, if you really like being in the weeds of this document trail, what none of it has done, and even the folks at the other nets, they had to say reluctantly today, they were covering it, there is no connection back to Trump. So they're going through this paper trail of payments and repayments to Michael Cohen from the Trump Organization Trust, but there's no connection to Donald Trump himself. And what they're doing in addition, which is interesting, Annie McCarthy made a very interesting point, is that they're trying to say that on the one hand that these payments are legal, that there's nothing wrong with these payments. People do this all the time. They don't want bad publicity, and they pay to kill stories. Big deal. On the other hand, they're also saying that Michael Cohen is not believable. They didn't have, and the president himself didn't have anything to do with this. They're a little bit in conflict, those 2 points, but remember, they only have to pick off one juror. So if one juror, Michael Cohen, is a total scalawag, can't be believed.
It's gonna grenade, yeah. We know your routine.
Anyway, there's no crime here in the first place. Yeah. So there's a lot that's bizarre about this case, but the number one thing that's bizarre is that they are arguing a point that they didn't charge him with, which is unconstitutional under the New York Code. They're arguing that this was a conspiracy to violate a campaign finance law using this business.
Can't believe that just happened.
They didn't charge him with that. So they're really kind of throwing everything up against the wall, and I think it's not to the prosecution's benefit as to how they handled this case. And I think a lot of people who wish for a different outcome, namely a guilty verdict, are getting very concerned now.
I hesitate to ever cut in on you.
No, that's okay. Sorry.
You've dripped such delicious details and so much information that we need. I need you on 2 quick things, though. One, the judge in the end could make it fit. He could give instructions to that jury, I believe, from what I'm reading and from what other attorneys are telling me, that could make it easy to get
over here,
to get a conviction. So talk to me about that. And does that ever happen?
Well, given what this judge has already done, and I'm not subject to a gag order, so I can say this. Given what he's already done, I don't put anything past him. Okay, but again, one juror has to see that this whole process has been deeply unfair from the very beginning. One juror. So could he do that? Yes, he can. That'll be a subject to bring up for the Trump team on appeal. And Trump has to have good appellate lawyers for that. There's a lot of appellate issues that are being logged right now as this trial goes on. But yes, the judge could make it easier, but the judge cannot implant a new charge in an indictment. He didn't write the indictment; the prosecutor did. So, but he can couch the jury's instructions to perhaps make it a little bit more amenable toward the prosecution. But there can't be a new crime there.
Right, and that's what I was alluding to. I mean, one would help the prosecution just to craft those instructions, but you can't change what the accusation is.
And Harris, one other thing that I found interesting, and I know I'm taking up all your time, but another thing that was interesting today is in the gag order warning, right? Finding the former President Trump, guilty of a 10th gag order violation. Well, where Sean says, well, I realized I could be basically threatening jail time for a front runner and a future president.
Yeah,
and a future president. So when he said that, I thought, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it always is with you. I'll see you tonight from home.
Oh, I'm watching you. Great show as always.
Thank you. All right, let's get to the breaking news. We were waiting for just a moment, a few minutes ago, to make sure this was solid. Now the Associated Press is reporting Hamas has reportedly told Qatar and Egypt, the mediators of those countries, Hamas will accept the ceasefire proposal with Israel. Now, this reportedly includes a prisoner swap in addition to a stop in the fighting. The development comes as, of course, we were expecting the Israeli ground operation into Hamas's final stronghold in Rafah. So on the heels of Israel invading where their last stronghold was, where surely there's some, they say, uh-oh, no, we'll go back. Because that's what we're talking about here. They had a ceasefire on October 7th and slaughtered and raped people in Gaza, Israelis. They crossed the line for humanity, and now they want a deal. More outnumbered than one.
Doug. Never mind. Someone needs to customize and save hundreds on car insurance with Liberty Mutual. Let's fly. Chief? I thought you were right behind me. Only pay for what you need. Right now, pet dampers, skin cells, mold spores, pollen, and dirt are being sucked into your air ducts. Get cleaner air and system efficiency now with Stanley Steamer. Your air ducts are clean until they're Stanley Steamer clean.
Somebody would ask for something and she would just walk right past. Because she didn't know they were talking to her.
I just could not hear. I was hesitant to get the hearing aids because of my short hair, but nobody even sees that.
Oh, you, the invisible hearing aids are just one reason we've been a brand leader for over 75 years.
When I finally could hear for the first time, I could hear everything.
Here at 1-800-234 and schedule a free hearing appointment today.
I will never again lose excited because I switched to consumer soda. Now I get the same sugar cheese stuff for up to half the cost. From the one place. It's a creative phone. We're here to answer. Did you get it? With Chewy, 10% on your first pharmacy order. So you can put an end to the itch. Get flea and tick medication delivered right to your door.
At St. Jude, we don't care who cures cancer, we just need to advance the cure. It's a bold initiative to try and bump cure rates all around the world, but we should. It is our commitment. We need to do this.
The border, the economy, foreign policy.
This is Joe Biden's all-new, radicalized Democratic Party.
What does it mean for the election? Get must-see insight tonight on Hannity. With Absorbing Pro, pain won't hold you back from your passions.
The program helped me a lot. I met other kids who were going through the same phase as me. So I was able to relate and find where I could fit in. Thanks to your support of United Way, I'm able to achieve my dreams. God bless.
Very much local. Connections with people right here in our community.
It kind of was a joke, but every time I walk in, say it's Courtney, it's like, who's your Courtney? And they just let me through.
I really didn't know helping other people. And that's how I was brought up.
Clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada. Squash is sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. From coast to coast to coast. Learn to play and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
The wider media from the Hamas savages who perpetrated a massacre, as we know. And I'm not just a simple killing of torturing, burning babies in ovens, massacring them because of the Israelis. The breaking news now is that Hamas has agreed to a ceasefire deal proposed by Egypt and Qatar, and it includes a release of more hostages. Not all the hostages, more hostages, as well as a stop in the fire. Jeff Paul is live in Tel Aviv. So, Jeff, I've got the statement. Do you have the statement in front of you?
Yeah, I do. It is a bit religious, but in terms of what we were reading through, we've got the leader of Ismail Haniyeh, who's been a critical part of these ongoing negotiations, basically saying that, he had a call with the Qataris as well as the Egyptians, saying that they agreed to this framework that has been on the table of this potential ceasefire agreement. The real big question is, considering everything that's happened over the last 24 hours, will Israel now agree to the framework that's been put on the table? A lot has changed over the last week when we first started talking about this.
Excellent mission.
Including over the last 24 hours, you had this attack at the Green humanitarian aid. 4 Israeli soldiers got there. Then you had Hamas leaving, that delegation leaving Egypt to head back to Qatar. And then today, of course, the huge development where these flyers and text messages and phone calls that were being delivered to roughly 100,000 Palestinians in eastern Rafah that they needed to evacuate. So it is a significant development that, given all of that, possibly all that pressure that maybe Israel was putting on that Hamas has now agreed to the framework of a potential ceasefire agreement. We'll see what Israel does next.
Yeah, you're talking about pressure. What you're talking about is it's nightfall there now, and they were about to move in on the ground. I mean, that's the ultimate pressure, and they know Israel needs their word. I don't know what we're doing here in the United States, but they need theirs. Jeff Paul, thank you. All right.
One back to last a month? What the fuck you? That's crazy.
The most gracious, the most merciful, the fighter brother Ismail Haniyeh, head of the political bureau of the Hamas movement, they call themselves, had a phone call with the Qatari Prime Minister and the Egyptian Minister of Intelligence and informed them that Hamas's movement's approval of their proposal regarding the ceasefire agreement. They're not giving back all the hostages.
He's a good one too.
I just put myself in the mind of one of these hostages.
And I lost a race suit over that.
And I read the things they say every day. As I mentioned, Kafir and Ariel Beavis, those cute little red-headed boys who've shown their picture I don't know how many times. Israel has said that there are about 130 hostages unaccounted for, and they believe a quarter of them are dead. I hope that's not the case. And I just am imagining being a family member of one of these hostages and praying and hoping that in the coming days my loved one comes home. And I pray that those 2 little boys come home, the 5 American hostages in the others.
I'm just learning now that the State Department cannot confirm this. And give me the National Security Council, is that also true? Okay, so the National Security Council, NSC, also cannot confirm this. Look, they're about to go in and have a ground invasion. They want to go back to October 6th when they already had a ceasefire. But we don't get all the hostages back? We'll have a deal.
If as reported, Yahya Sinwar is using hostages as shield below
Haven't gotten an aluminum core in a bit.
They can't give that up. Also, this sounds like a dodge. We don't know, confirmed or not confirmed, what's going on. But we've seen this play before in prior conflict. We want a ceasefire. It's not agreed to. They want to delay. They want to make the world. Remember, they're playing an information war game. So they want the world to know that we accepted the ceasefire. Israel is evil for going into Gaza. Be very careful with this one. Don't trust.
I got you. We're coming right back.
Let's get started. Bill, where's your back? I really tried sleeping with it, everybody, but I'm done struggling. Now I sleep with Inspire. Inspire? Inspire is a sleep apnea treatment that works inside my body with just a click of this button.
A button?
No mask?
No food?
Just sleep.
Yeah, but you need the hose, you need the air.
Inspire, sleep apnea innovation. Learn more and view important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
It's odd how, in an instant, things can transform. Slipping out of balance into free fall.
The stock market is now down 23%.
This is happening, people.
There are so few certainties.
Look around.
As we navigate
immediate future.
I'm glad I found stability in the midst of gold. Standing the test of time.
My back got injured very bad. I was off work for about a year. I heard about Relief Factor from my wife. I took it every day, 3 times a day for 3 weeks. Looked at her and I said, the pain is gone. And she said, I'm glad it helped. I said, no, you don't understand. It's gone.
You too can feel better every day with Relief Factor, a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Call or go online now for our 3-week quick start, just $19.95.
I'm Jonathan Lawson, here to tell you about life insurance through the Colonial Penn program. If you're age 50 to 85 and looking to buy life insurance on a fixed budget, remember the 3 Ps.
What are the 3 Ps?
The 3 Ps of life insurance on a fixed budget are price, price, and price. A price you can afford, a price that can't increase, and a price that fits your budget.
I'm 54. What's my price?
You can get coverage for $9.95 a month.
I'm 65 and take medications. What's my price?
Also $9.95 a month.
I just turned 80. What's my price?
$9.95 a month for you. If you're age 50 to 85, call now about the #1 most popular whole life insurance plan available through the Colonial Penn program. Options start at $9.95 a month. No medical exam, no health questions. Your acceptance is guaranteed. And this plan has a guaranteed lifetime rate buy. So your rate
Damn, I need that intel.
So call now for free information, and you'll also get this free beneficiary plan. And it's yours free, just for calling. So call now for free information.
Call 1-800-700-2020 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-700-2020. Don't wait. 1-800-700-2020.
This is a hot flash. This is a hot flash. But this is a not flash. For moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms due to menopause, Veoza is the first and only prescription treatment that directly blocks the source of hot flashes and night sweats. With 100% hormone-free Veoza, you can have fewer hot flashes and more not flashes. Veoza reduces the number and severity of hot flashes.
I'll take the supplies.
It can start working in as early as 1 week. Don't use Veoza if you have cirrhosis, severe kidney problems, kidney failure, or take CYP1A2 inhibitors. Increased liver blood test values may occur. Your doctor will check them before and during treatment. Most common side effects include stomach pain, diarrhea, difficulty sleeping, and back pain. Ask your doctor about hormone-free Veoza and enjoy more not flashes.
Ranger.
We are moments away
Wait,
from today's
what kind of
State Department briefing, and this
specialist?
comes after we've learned that Hamas has accepted
We need a
ceasefire
specialist.
deal brokered by Qatar, brokered by Egypt. Hamas says they've accepted the ceasefire. We have yet to hear from Israel. Reached out to the White House, yet to hear from the White House, yet to hear from the State Department. So in moments, right there at that podium, there will be a lot of questions. Then we'll take you to the White House press briefing. That's, of course, with Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby. That begins at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And not only are there lingering questions
Even
about
erase it.
Hamas accepted ceasefire as we wait to hear from Israel, there are questions about an ammunition delay that Axios reported. Why was ammunition delayed to Israel? Also part of the reporting is the White House has declined to comment. Decline no longer. We will hear from the White House 2:15 Eastern Time. Thanks to everyone. Make sure to DVR the show. For now, America Reports.
All right, breaking in just the past few minutes, Hamas saying it has agreed to a ceasefire framework proposed by Qatar and Egypt. It comes as we await a White House briefing with Karine Jean-Pierre and John Kirby, and as the Israeli forces prepare to move into Rafah for a limited scope operation on the heels of its long-promised ground offensive in Gaza. And that's where we begin this Monday afternoon. I'm John Roberts. Good Monday to you.
Good Monday to you, John. I'm Jillian Turner. In particular today, this is America Report.
The IDF is ordering hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Rafah to begin evacuating now. One senior Hamas official is calling the move a
Let's stick you in a race too.
that will have consequences.
Jeff Paul is live on the ground for us in Tel Aviv with the very latest on all of this. Jeff, Hamas saying it agrees to a ceasefire does not necessarily mean it's a done deal.
No, it certainly does not. Hamas released a statement saying that its political leader, Ismail Haniyeh, had a phone call with both the Qataris and the Egyptians who've been involved in this tense mediation process, saying they agreed to the deal that's on the table that's been discussed over the last week or so. The real question now remains is, A, what will Israel do? How will they respond? And does this include the release of hostages? So we'll have to stand by and wait and see. At the same time, we had a massive development today as the Israeli military started warning residents and people who live in eastern Rafah, roughly 100,000 Palestinians, to start evacuating. They dropped flyers off in that area in eastern Rafah, as well as they made phone calls as well as text messages telling the people who live there that they need to move on to the Muwasi humanitarian zone. That's an area north of Rafah along the coast of Gaza. The Israeli military says at the moment the order is only temporary and not a large-scale evacuation. However, for the civilians who've been told to pack up their things and leave, there's not only a sense of frustration, but a real concern about their safety.
The Israeli occupation told people to go to Rafah and that it is a safe area. Today, they're telling us to get out of Rafah. Where will the people go? Where will all these crowds go? 1.5 million or 2 million civilians. Where will they go? Should they go?
Shit.
Both of these major developments happening as Hamas just left Egypt yesterday during some tense negotiations, but on that very same day, there was a deadly attack, a mortar attack at the Kerem Shalom crossing that the IDF says was fired from that humanitarian zone in Rafah. Hamas has claimed responsibility, and during a call with U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, Israel's defense minister Yoav Gallant said they really don't have a choice. They've got to get into Rafah, and he said at the time that it didn't appear that Hamas was very serious about coming up with some sort of ceasefire agreement. I wanted you to pay attention to the language here. They use the word ceasefire agreement, no mention of hostages. You're going to want to watch and see how Israel responds, because that's going to be a big part of this, as we saw in November, an exchange of hostages for Palestinian prisoners, as well as a pause in the fighting. John, Jillian?
Jeff, this is Jillian. How much can a agreement to a ceasefire by Hamas really mean if we don't know that they've agreed to the core foundation tenet on their side, which is the release of the remaining hostages?
I take my vitamins.
This whole week, you have these little trickles of information. Some reports saying as many as 30 hostages could be released. Some saying 40. Until you really get that agreement that both parties have agreed to, it's hard to tell exactly what's going to happen. But it is interesting that the wording that was used by that statement from Hamas said a ceasefire agreement. Surely Israel would likely not agree to that if it didn't include the release of some of the hostages. You've got roughly 132 who they believe are still in there.
Okay, Jeff Paul for us in Tel Aviv with the latest. Jeff, we'll keep his ear to the ground and see what we hear from the Israeli government. Of course, we've seen in the past that Hamas has said, oh yeah, that's a ceasefire we'd accept, when it's been completely disadvantageous to Israel.
Of course. The other reality, John, is that I want to make sure I get these numbers precise. On Friday, our teams on the ground there reported that Hamas is still holding 132 hostages believed to be in Gaza. 37 of those are confirmed dead. But we are also hearing reporting from our teams that it is possible many more, maybe even dozens of those people could be dead as of Friday.
Maybe one of the reasons why Hamas has not agreed to any ceasefires up to this point is because this idea of having hostages as bargaining chips may not exist. Exactly. They want the world to think it does. We'll be talking with Senator Todd Cotton about this coming up after our first commercial break. But first, this.
This has never happened in this country before. It's a ridiculous thing. It's a ridiculous case. I did nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. They have no case. And it's been absolutely proven now. They have no case whatsoever. This is how they're doing it for political reasons. This is a fight trial.
All right, well, that's former President Trump weighing in on his criminal trial before court, also speaking out against the existing today, former Trump Organization controller Jeff McConney got team coverage for you. Former Trump impeachment attorney William J. Brennan. First, we go to senior correspondent Eric Shawn. He's live at the courthouse. Eric, what is the witness telling to those jurors today in the courtroom?
Yeah, hello, Julian. The proceedings here have now broken for lunch, but throughout this morning, we've heard a lot about payments and invoices and reimbursements to Michael Cohen. But so far, no evidence or testimony directly tying the former president into that alleged scheme to pay off Stormy Daniels. On the witness stand is the former Trump Organization controller, Jeff McConney. He's been explaining how Michael Cohen was reimbursed, eventually, for using his own money to pay Stormy. But McConney said he knew nothing about any agreement or deal with Stormy Daniels for alleged hush money payments. He said Alan Weisselberg, the Trump CFO at the time, told him the disbursements to Cohen were approved by, among others, Eric Trump, the former president's son, who happens to be in court here today with him. And he said the balance came from Trump's own personal checking account. And those checks to Michael Cohen were marked for legal expenses. The defense says the former president did think just that he was paying Michael Cohen for being his lawyer. The prosecutors have, of course, said that is not true. But the day started with the former president learning he has to write another check, this time for violating the gag order again. Judge Rod Merchan fined Trump $1,000 for an attack he made on the jury and told him if he doesn't stop, he could go behind bars. Quote, "The last thing I want to consider is jail," said the judge. "You are the former president and possibly the next president. The magnitude of that decision is not lost on me. Your continued willful violation of the court's order constitutes a direct attack on the rule of law and will not be allowed to continue."
They have no case.
To hear.
They have absolutely no case. It's a political hoax. It's election interference. Anything they can do, and even the witnesses they want to bring up, they have nothing to do with the case. This is a ridiculous situation. Not fair. Not fair. But we will fight.
Well, just before the lunch break, it was the defense's turn to question McConney. Defense attorney Neil Bove trying to show that McConney and those in the Trump Organization thought that these payments were on the up and up. And as the defense has said, they were paying for legal expenses to Michael Cohen. Julian, back to you.
All right, Eric Shawn outside that Manhattan court for us this afternoon. Thank you.
All right, let's bring in William Brennan. He is a former Trump payroll corporation attorney. He also represented then President Trump during his second impeachment trial. Bill, it's good to have you here. Welcome.
John, Julian, thanks for having me.
You know, anytime there's a comptroller on the stand, you put on your green visor and you start to really get down into the weeds in terms of these numbers. I mean, we're talking about terms like payments to Cohen were grossed up. Kind of the taxes they would have had to pay, whether or not these were reported to the IRS, whether or not Trump approved them, whether there was any link to Trump. You know all about this stuff. Dig into it. Tell us, what has the prosecution unveiled, and have they made any salient points?
Well, John, it's not as nefarious as it may sound or seem. I mean, you have to remember that the Trump Organization and its subsidiaries are privately held companies. It's really a family business.
Shit.
So it's not anything really out of the ordinary that when the president was the president that he would have to sign checks from his personal account. Mr. McConney, as I recall,
I had it all set up too.
The case that I handled before Judge Merchan worked for the organization, I think, for 30 some years.
Yeah.
It was there a long time. That's what's amazing is these employees stay forever. Mr. Weisselberg, I think, was there 38 years, but I haven't heard anything yet that jumps off the page. There's no smoking gun here. And the most important thing to remember, aside from the fact that the president's presumed innocent, is that the prosecution has kind of cobbled this case together with duct tape and zip ties and, to get to this second crime. All this could have occurred, as they say it did, but if it wasn't motivated to commit a second crime, either election fraud or some type of election finance fraud, that case goes out the window.
So the judge also said today that the penalties, the financial penalties, are clearly not having the intended effect on Trump. For the gag order, he said he might just have to throw him in jail. How much time is this judge likely considering?
Well, Judge Merchan's in a tough spot. Having spent the better part of 2 months with him, I mean, he suffers no fools. He's the real deal. And I think he would, if he felt it was necessary, impose a jail sentence. Having said that,
this is the first time we've had a former president of the United States as a criminal defendant. So I'm hoping he can make his point with the measures he's taken, but he could put this defendant in for, say, a day and have the same chilling impact that 30 days would have. And frankly, it gets a little unruly after a day because you've got Secret Service and security issues. But when you're talking about this particular defendant, a day, a month, it really sends the same message.
Yeah, if Trump goes to jail, the Secret Service goes to jail with him. I think we should point out. But there's a sense that if Merchan were to throw him in jail, that he would probably add 5 to 8 points to his popularity rating.
So it's been going, but I really think that the president has been compliant with the gag order since the first set of sanctions, 9 out of 10. I think that you must remember, these allegations, these most recent 4, I think it is, were made while those were pending. It's not like that ruling came down and then he flouted it.
If I could, where I was going with the question was totally in a different direction. You said that you've argued before Judge Merchan.
Yes.
You said he was the real deal.
He is.
Trump says he's a conflicted judge who's letting in all sorts of evidence that should never see the light of day.
Running a kangaroo court.
Yeah.
I'm not the president's lawyer in this case. I've had the opportunity to represent the president in his second impeachment and in a payroll tax case before this judge. But my personal opinion of Judge Merchan, he treated me very well. He was a gentleman. He's smart. He works hard. And I really don't, it's above my pay grade to get into political issues. I have no political agenda. As a lawyer who's been knocking around this country for 3.5 decades trying criminal cases, pleasure to work in front of him. And frankly, that prosecution,
excellent.
A number of those people, Steinglass,
Represent an explosive device. That's excellent.
He's a pro. You know, it's just so much easier when the judge is a pro and the prosecution team are professionals. We do our job.
All right. It's refreshing to hear. Thanks for bringing us that background.
Sure.
That's something we get a lot.
Hear from the former president about
I may hear from the former president about that.
Bill, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us, John. Thank you.
We are now getting word of an Israeli response after Hamas reported it had accepted an Egyptian Qatari ceasefire proposal, while Israel says it's not acceptable. The key piece. We're going to talk to Senator Tom Cotton about it coming up next.
Plus, the war overseas causing chaos in college campuses across the United States. Molly Lyon covering it. She's at Harvard today. Molly?
John, the encampment on Harvard Yard remains at this hour. They want the Harvard institution to begin negotiations at 5 p.m., but the Harvard interim president says, I call on those participating in the encampment to end the occupation of Harvard Yard. More on that coming up.
Okay, everyone, our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and ensure complete with 30 grams of protein.
What's the greatest invention of all time? New hands-free Skechers slip-ins. You just slip in and they're on. It's like they have an invisible built-in shoehorn, so your foot slides into place without bending down or touching your shoes. Then the heel pillow technology keeps your foot comfy and secure. Hands-free Skechers slip-ins.
I would like to take a moment to address my fellow veterans, because I know there are so many of you who have served your country honorably, whether it's 2 years, 4 years, or 32 years like myself. One of the benefits that we as a country give you as a veteran is your eligibility for a VA loan. Not 80%, but 100% the value of your home, and that's what you can get at New Day USA.
Call 1-800-308-8605.
Your calling. Some people find theirs at an early age, others later in life. No matter when you find it, consider yourself lucky, because it becomes your everything. Our calling was to build trucks. That's why trucks are what we do. We put our everything in every truck, so that when you find your calling, nothing can stop you from answering.
The darkness of bipolar depression made me feel like I was losing interest in the things I love. Then I found a chance to let in the light, discovered Capilita,
Unlike some medicines that only treat bipolar 1, Caplyta is proven to deliver significant symptom relief from both bipolar 1 and 2 depression. And in clinical trials, disorders of weight gain were not common.
Caplyta can cause serious side effects. Call your doctor about sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks in young adults. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Report fever, confusion, or stiff muscles which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements which may be permanent. Common side effects include sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, and dry mouth. These aren't all the side effects.
And the darkness of bipolar 1 and 2 depression, Caplyta can help you let in the light. Ask your doctor about Caplyta. Find savings and support at Caplyta.com.
We got another big horse race coming up in November. Who's your money on? Us. Go mine. Gotta go drill, man.
What are the odds tonight on Jesse Waters Primetime?
If you know luxury, it's not just a horse.
Finally got a core. Shit.
You got this.
When it comes to drugs, how much freedom is too much for kids? Drugs are out there. Will my team feel free to say no around other kids? I didn't live drug-free when I was younger. And I admit that to my kids. Drugs worry me. How can I feel free to talk about it with my kids?
Questions about drugs and kids? Call or chat to get real-time support.
Said it will accept the terms of the ceasefire deal that were crafted by Qatar and Egypt. Jackie Heinrich live at the White House. Jackie, I didn't think there was much possibility that Israel would sign on to something that Hamas had accepted.
Well, John, in trying to parse sort of what we've been told off the record and what we can say publicly, I guess I would just tell you right now, use extreme caution in taking this Hamas statement at face value. You'll recall the president had a phone call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this morning, lasted about 30 minutes. And since this statement came out, we have not gotten any response from the White House, from the State Department, the National Security Council, even on background. So generally, there was a feeling that this might not be happening imminently, that they were willing to share immediately after Hamas came out with this statement. The statement that Hamas also put out doesn't make any mention of a hostage release, which has been and continues to be a core tenet of any deal that would be accepted by Israel. It would have to include, for the U.S. as well, the hostage release, a pause in fighting, and more aid. And the statement that Hamas put out doesn't make reference to any of the individual parameters of the deal. I would not be surprised if the briefing got pushed back. I've spoken to several officials across the administration who were in real time trying to verify with their Israeli counterparts, the legitimacy of this claim, what exactly it all entails. But I would agree with you that generally, John, this seemed to be a surprise, and the slow reaction to comment on it from the White House, from the State Department, from the National Security Council, we can read into that and glean from that perhaps as of the phone call this morning, there wasn't an expectation that this would be happening soon. So ongoing effort right now to sort of parse this and figure out what all it means, John.
Yeah, I think Hamas probably also saw an opportunity with the increased pressure that Biden's been putting on Netanyahu, including these reports that the U.S. was withholding weapons deliveries to Israel. Jackie Heinrich for us at the White House. Jackie, thanks.
All right, let's go ahead now and bring in Senator Tom Cotton. He serves on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Sir, just hearing this news that Hamas says they have agreed to the terms of the ceasefire without specifying what those terms are. It's mighty hard for the Israelis to agree to a ceasefire when Hamas has not even been truthful or forthcoming about how many hostages remain in captivity and how many of them are even alive at this point.
Well, Jillian, we'll have to see exactly what Israel says they received from Hamas, but this sounds suspiciously like an info operation trying to win a PR war because Hamas knows it can't win a military war against Israel, nor can you negotiate with them in good faith. As you said, we don't even know how many of the hostages remain alive. We hope most of them do, but I think we have to accept the reality that many or even most might already be dead. Hamas won't even provide proof of life photos or videos. It would not be hard for Hamas to put today's newspaper in front of these hostages and have them speak a few words into the camera, but then that would reveal their ACE cards, how many hostages they still have alive. And Hamas is not going to do that, and they're especially not going to do that as long as Joe Biden continues to pressure Israel to give Hamas what it wants more than all, which is its continued existence. Israel is dedicated to Hamas's destruction. There are 4 Hamas battalions left in Rafah. Every time Joe Biden says, or his senior aides say, we don't want Israel to take down these battalions in Rafah, we demand they reopen these gates so supplies can get in, apparently now withholding ammunition from Israel, all it does is make Hamas less likely to agree to any kind of hostage release because they think they're going to get from Joe Biden's pressure what Israel is otherwise only getting when they apply military pressure to Hamas.
At least according to one report I saw, Israel, Netanyahu in that call did agree to reopen the Karm Shalom crossing for humanitarian assistance. Reuters is reporting on this. Here's what it said about Israel's rejection of the Hamas deal. Israeli official says Hamas announcement appears to be a ruse to cast Israel as the side refusing a deal. And there's a tremendous amount of pressure on Biden, too, from the left. Listen to what Bernie Sanders posted on that.
Excellent.
1 million people have fled to Rafah. But once the U.S. has warned against an attack, Netanyahu ignored the warnings. Now an assault is imminent. It will kill countless civilians. President Biden must back his words with action, end all offensive military aid to Israel. Why wouldn't Hamas see an opportunity?
Well, John, that's exactly right. Again, as long as Joe Biden and the Democratic Party keeps putting pressure on Israel, it makes Hamas that much less likely to actually agree to releasing these hostages. The only reason they restarted negotiations a few weeks ago is because the invasion of Rafah appeared. The only time Hamas has been willing to release hostages and when they go intense military. Every time Joe Biden said that Israel should not proceed with this war, they demand a ceasefire. Hamas is simply emboldened. Look at what Hamas is discussing anti-Semitic campuses. Little jobs around the country. They're celebrating them because they need more pressure on Joe Biden and the Democrats to demand that Israel is what they should be doing. If these people want Gazans to stop suffering, they should demand that Hamas release all the hostages and unconditionally surrender.
Which, to be fair, they have been doing since day one, and Hamas could have perceivably ended the conflict at any point in time by doing so. We're looking at live pictures here outside Al-Aqsa Hospital in Gaza, the site of a bombing that was due to a Hamas Palestinian sympathizer terrorist unit misfiring earlier in the war. We heard, Senator, from UNICEF over the weekend that there's about 600,000 children inside Rafah right now. What steps could the IDF take to not necessarily protect them, but prevent them from being unnecessarily brought into this?
Well, first off, UNICEF is an agency of the United Nations. UNICEF is a cesspool of anti-Semitic and anti-Israel hate, so I'm not sure I would credit what
Well, Senator,
it is
number is
terrible
widely accepted to be true, so I'm just putting that out there. The 600,000.
Well, there's no doubt that there are civilian casualties and civilian suffering in Gaza. That is always the case in war. The sole responsibility rests with Hamas, however. Hamas invaded Israel.
Was looking for you.
Since the Holocaust, it brought this war on Gaza. If it wants to stop civilian suffering and casualties in Gaza, it can unconditionally surrender, just like Germany did in May of 1945, just like Japan did after we nuked them twice. The war is not finished by then. Those countries were not totally occupied, but their de facto governments unconditionally surrendered to stop further civilian deaths. That's exactly what Hamas would do here. They are solely responsible for the civilian casualties in this war.
And there's no sign that Hamas would be willing to do that. There's too much at stake for them for this. Let me come back to this report that Biden was withholding weapons shipments to Israel. It was carried in Axios over the weekend. It said, "Scoop, U.S. put a hold on ammunition shipment to Israel." Here's how the Wall Street Journal editorial board read that. They said, quote, "Perhaps the weapons delay was intended as a message to Hamas that the U.S. is willing to arm twist Israel to stop the Rafah campaign. But that's the diplomatic logic that has kept the war going as long as it has since October 7th. Israel's government can't end the war with
Oh shit, they got ambushed.
and that means going into Rafah is difficult."
Thank God they lost her here.
It would seem to me, Senator, that Netanyahu and even the Unity War Cabinet is looking at this and saying, there's no way that we can't go into Rafah and leave those 4 battalions intact, because if we do, eventually they'll reconstitute. It'll be October 7th all over again. So do you think that despite the pressure that Biden's bringing on Israel, it's going to go ahead in Rafah?
I think they have to. That's what Prime Minister Netanyahu and the cabinet said. That's what public opinion polls reflect in Israel. This is not just the decision of one man or a handful of men in the war cabinet. This is the overwhelming public sentiment in Israel after suffering that October 7th atrocity. And if these reports are true about Joe Biden withholding ammunition from Israel, it may be the worst blunder yet of his administration around the world. Maybe worse than the withdrawal from Afghanistan, because it does exactly send that signal to Hamas that they do not need to surrender. They do not need to release the hostages. They can count on Joe Biden to force Israel, as opposed to backing Israel to the hilt from the very beginning. This war probably would already be over. It's a simple see of President Biden all around, never playing to win, only trying to avoid losing by the barest margins.
We learned on Thursday and Friday considering the potential to allow thousands of Palestinians trapped in Gaza to enter the U.S. on refugee visas. What do you think about that potential?
In second, look, there are reasons why Egypt, an American partner, does not want Gazans coming into its own territory. They know what a dangerous threat it is. So either they need to go into shelters in Gaza, or we need to work with countries like Egypt or other countries in the region if there are going to be refugees leave Gaza. That is always the preferred method of dealing with refugees, keeping them as close as possible to their home country. To fly thousands of Arabs out of Gaza into the United States, just like we've let millions of people cross our border illegally, would be the height of folly.
Just very quickly, Senator, countries like Jordan, Egypt, already said security.
And if Egypt won't take them in because of security concerns, just to even consider bringing them to the United States.
In the great state of Arkansas, good to catch up with you, sir. Thanks for your time.
It's a political hoax, it's election interference, anything they can do, and even the witnesses they want to bring up, they have nothing to do with the case. This is a ridiculous situation. Not fair. Not fair.
Former President Trump speaking out before court this morning. What's the impact of today's testimony, and what can we expect from star witness Michael Cohen? Fox News legal editor Carrie Herman is standing by outside the courtroom. She joins us coming up next.
We got company.
At Safelite, we'll take care of fixing your windshield. But did you know we can take care of your insurance claim? That means less stress for you. Hey, what's this? How's it going? Schedule today at Safelite.com.
Feeling from a backed up gut? Miralax works naturally with the water in your body to help you go. Free your gut and your mood will follow. For 8 grams of fiber, try Neurofiber gummies.
My name is Douglas. I'm a writer, director, and I'm still working.
In the kind of work that I do, you are surrounded by people who are all younger than you. I had to get help somewhere along the line to stay competitive. I discovered Prevagen. I started taking it, and after a period of time, my memory improved. It was a game changer for me.
Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
Home. Home. Something to be proud of. Home. Safe. Comfort. Worthy of protection. Family. Home. I was deployed to Afghanistan. I was on patrol March 26, 2010. During a dismounted patrol, I happened to step in the wrong spot and took a sniper round into the chest. This is the date I was hit. I lost my legs almost immediately. I lost my left hand and both my legs above the knee. My arm was gone, so I closed my eyes, thinking to myself, if I just keep breathing, I will make it home to my wife. I'm a certain country. Every day, still adapting to this new life. I have everybody change their lifestyle to take care of me. They have to care upstairs. The hardest thing in my life is to have to call. Where do you go when home is home? There are over 1,000 families that risk their lives. I understand with more than 3 homes. Yes, I'm on the way. It's going to be amazing. This small home.
Yes.
A whole lot easier. 100%. That my independence again will be able to just take care of myself. This home will allow me to be self-sufficient. Let me live my life. It gives me back some of my dignity to who I used to be. There is a waiting list for houses. This is the waiting list. There are a lot of people on the list. Yeah. There are a lot of guys out there. Maybe too many. It gives you back your dignity, your pride, your self-perseverance. Thanks to Talented Towers, I'm going to have all these freedoms given back to me. Food, personal, safety, dignity, family, independence. It's an American dream. It's home. I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts. Please visit TotalTower.com.
My back got injured very bad. I was off work for about a year. I heard about Relief Factor from my wife. I took it every day, 3 times a day, for 3 weeks. Looked at her and I said, the pain is gone. And she said, I'm glad it helped. I said, no, you don't understand. It's gone.
You too can feel better every day with Relief Factor, a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Call or go online now for our 3-week quick start, just $19.95.
It's time to feed the dogs real food in the right amount. A healthy weight can help dogs live a longer, happier life. The Farmer's Dog makes weight management easy with fresh food pre-portioned for your dog's needs. It's an idea whose time has come. 20 seconds a week to lose 20% of your weight in a year with diet and exercise. That's the power of GLP-1s through Grow. Connect with a provider today at grow.co/20.
Welcome back. We brought you the news a moment ago that Hamas has agreed. They say they have agreed to a ceasefire deal with the Israelis without citing any of the specific terms of the ceasefire deal that they were allegedly agreeing to. Now we are waiting, as you can see here, a statement from the IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari reacting to these comments and claims from Hamas. We will bring you his comments as we get them.
All right. The New York trial against former President Donald Trump continues, with the former controller of his organization taking the stand today as prosecutors work to tie a 2016 payment to Stormy Daniels to another crime, which we still haven't got a clear indication of exactly what it is. Joining us now is our Fox News legal editor, Gary Urban. So, did the prosecution go any distance today to try to solidify in the minds of the jury that these were clandestine payments that were being made to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal to affect the outcome of the election?
The prosecution is painstakingly going through each invoice that Michael Cohen submitted to the Trump Organization for services rendered. Now, the reason that does matter is because he was submitting a monthly invoice in 2017, which is after when the work that he provided would have been done. And so what I think the prosecutors are trying to get at here is Why would he be billing, $35,000 a month, April 2017, May 2017, as if something was happening at that point, when in fact he was paying or getting paid for something that he'd already provided the previous year, which of course is going to go to their theory that the theme that they're pushing, which is that Michael Cohen and Donald Trump were collaborating to unlawfully influence the election. Although, as we've discussed many times on the show, John, payment for compensation for an NDA is not illegal.
Carrie, a question about one of the key witnesses at the end of last week, which was Hope Hicks. She painted a picture that former President Trump was very eager to kind of squash the Stormy Daniels story because he was concerned about what that reporting would sort of mean to his wife, where it would be upsetting to her, of course. Do you think now, looking back on her testimony a few days later after watching all of it multiple hours in full, that she was helpful or harmful to the defense here?
There are mixed reviews out there as to whether she was helpful or not to the former president. I personally think that she was, because her testimony that Donald Trump was personally stressed by the impact the Stormy Daniels story would have on his wife Melania and his family is very important, because it undercuts the prosecution's theory of the case, which is that he only paid off Stormy Daniels to win the election or to help himself win. Now, Hope Hicks did testify that Donald Trump would ask routinely, how is this playing? Which, by the way, as a former press secretary, is a very common question, whether one is running for election or not. The boss wants to know how a story about him is playing, if it's going well or not. So I didn't think anything was that abnormal about that. And I have to tell you, I was a bit surprised by some of the coverage over the weekend from other media outlets that described bombshell, damaging testimony from Hope Hicks about her former boss. And the thing that they kept pointing to was her saying that the Access Hollywood tape was devastating and damaging. But I mean, of course it was. We all knew that. Anybody who lived through October 2016 could have said that. It doesn't change the legality of compensation for NDA, and it doesn't change the legal aspects of this case.
So this is all leading toward testimony by the prosecution's star witness, Michael Cohen. And I thought it was interesting that Hope Hicks did not paint a very kind picture of Michael Cohen in her testimony. When she said this, she said, the defense asked, he went rogue at times, fair to say? Hope Hicks says yes. Then she went on to say, I used to say he liked to call himself a fixer or Mr. Fix-It. And it was only because he first broke it that he was then able to fix it. I mean, she is really casting a lot of doubt in the minds of the jury as to just how credible this guy will be when he takes the stand.
And not just Hope Hicks. I have yet to see one witness say a positive thing about Michael Cohen on the stand, which, of the prosecution, that's a big problem. If every witness that I'm putting forth has negative things to say about my star witness,
where's my sniper?
Is a star witness, because at the end of all of this, it really is going to come down to Michael Cohen's word versus Donald Trump.
You're a sniper.
And Michael Cohen, as we know, has lied in court. He's lied to the media. He's lied to Congress. And so these are the things that a juror is going to have to contend with once he eventually takes the stand. Weeks of testimony speaking to bad things about his character, coupled with what they already know about him from the past.
So on a technical note, Judge Bertrand this morning says that basically the fines he's been imposing for Trump violating the gag order are not working, and he may have to throw him in jail at some point. What do you think of that, and what was the court's reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, he could. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should or that he will. I said this earlier today, not that a judge is supposed to be thinking about politics, but this judge obviously thinks about politics given his past donations to Joe Biden and a Stop Republicans group, so we know that he is attuned to the political scene. It would be political suicide, though, for him to send Donald Trump to jail. It would turn Donald Trump, I think, into an instant martyr. It would exponentially increase sympathy for him in the court of public opinion. And I think it would raise serious question marks in the minds of those, say, who think this is a righteous prosecution when they see a judge potentially throwing in the former leader of the free world and possibly the future leader of the free world into prison for defending himself in a case that is very much going to play into whether or not he's elected.
So let me just ask you one question that kind of got more delineated in court, and that was why Michael Cohen was paid so much more than he paid Stormy Daniels. And the prosecution looked at the records and memos and said, well, his compensation was grossed up. Because if you give a person back $130,000 as salary, they're going to lose a good portion of that, maybe 50%, depending on what tax bracket you're in, to the IRS. So they plussed up or grossed up the payments so that it would cover the taxes. And then there was a bonus on top of that. And that added up to more than $400,000. Did they adequately explain the discrepancy in the amount of money that he was given back versus what he spent?
Well, we're going to hear more about that. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's say there is a discrepancy. Let's say it looks a little shady, potentially. It doesn't matter if it can't be proved that Donald Trump knew about these payments, how they were being paid, how much they were being paid, the minutia of the discussion. That's what matters at the end of the day. Donald Trump is the one on trial. So we're hearing a lot of other people talking to each other, lawyers negotiating things between themselves, and that's all well and fine, and that's how these things normally go. But the prosecution is responsible for proving beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump had direct knowledge of these payments, how they were made, how they were classified, for them to really make their case go forward.
All right, Carrie, we got to leave it there, but thanks for being our eyes and ears at the courthouse today. We appreciate it.
All right, back at it. Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.
This is a live look at the White House press podium. We're waiting for the briefing after Hamas just said it has agreed to a ceasefire deal. Stick with us.
Here's to getting better with age.
Here's to PT Scoop every Thursday.
Help fuel today with Boost Side Protein.
I like these spritz ups. They're pretty good. It's like 7-Up, but PC. President's Choice version of 7-Up.
So we partnered with Verizon to take operations to the next
Not
level.
bad.
A custom private 5G network. We get more control of production, efficiencies, and greater agility. That's enterprise intelligence.
It's your vision. It's your Verizon.
That's Black Psoriasis. He thinks it's flaky red patches for all people see.
Otezla is the #1 prescribed pill to treat plaque psoriasis. Otezla can help you get clear skin. Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Serious allergic reactions can happen. Otezla may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Some people taking Otezla have depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur.
Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla.
In the furniture business, things move fast.
Took 8 days to fix a leak. That's how they got here.
Project manager yesterday. He posted a job on ZipRecruiter and had our guy on site 5 days.
Crazy. Motherfucking crazy.
They help us build our dreams and live fast. Is that too fast for you?
4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Fox.
Have you or anyone you know ever been stationed at Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune? Camp Lejeune's water was contaminated by fuel leaks. If you had any water contact while at Camp Lejeune and had been diagnosed with cancer or Parkinson's disease, you may be entitled to compensation. As a Marine who was stationed at Camp Lejeune myself for 4 years, this cause gets close to home. So if you've been stationed or visited Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune and have cancer or Parkinson's, visit CampLejeuneInjury.com. Morgan & Morgan, for the veterans.
Yeah, your worst nightmare. Your car broke down. Now you're worried if it's going to cost you a fortune in repair bills. Unless you already called CarShield, the legit #1 auto protection company in the country. When you're protecting the plan through CarShield, the process is smooth like ice and done in as little as 3 steps. 1. First, the tow truck takes your car to the shop. The cost of towing, covered when you got a plan through CarShield. Next, you probably need to get around while your vehicle's being repaired, right? 2, plan through CarShield have rental car options too. Then comes the best part. 3, when you pick up your vehicle, you don't have a big repair bill to worry about. CarShield administrators get your covered repairs paid directly to the shop, so you're back on the road with no worries. Call now to get an affordable plan through CarShield for your vehicle before it's too late. When you call CarShield, when you got a small problem like a power window motor that could cost a few $100s, or a big problem like an engine or transmission that could cost you thousands of dollars, you're taken care of. CarShield is the #1 auto protection company in the country, and their administrators have paid out more than $1 billion in auto repairs. That's billion with a B. CarShield is the choice that gives you the CarShield guarantee. Your rate never goes up, and your coverage never goes down, no matter how many claims you have. Look, it's inevitable. As your car truck ages, the parts and components are gonna fail. It's not worth the risk. Call CarShield now.
Waiting until your car breaks down is too late. Call CarShield for coverage on up to 5,000 parts and get the CarShield guarantee, where your rate never goes up and your coverage never goes down, no matter how many claims you have. Call 800-991-1467. 800-991-1467.
When you can't watch, listen. Get the latest news, business, and news headlines on SiriusXM. Anytime, anywhere. Fox News Audio on SiriusXM. America is listening.
Welcome back. We're looking there at pictures of Gaza following Israeli air attacks on the city, on the region. The Israeli side is now warning civilians in Rafah to flee and evacuate without a timeline given. They say they're preparing for an imminent invasion. Rear Admiral Daniel Gar just reiterated that warning in his press conference, which is ongoing in Israel right now. As this and other relevant news is developing around the war in Gaza, I want to go ahead and bring in former State Department spokesman Morgan Ortega. She's joining us on the phone. Morgan, just to recap the latest and get your thoughts on it, Hamas claims that it has agreed to the terms of a ceasefire with Israel. We don't have an Israeli response just yet on paper, but there's a lot of reason to doubt and question the authenticity and the sincerity of Hamas in these negotiations.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jillian. Thank you for having me. It looks like also, just looking at the most recent reports out of Israel, it looks like Hamas may have agreed to a ceasefire deal that is a proposal that Israel has not even seen yet. So there's been a lot of proposals, a lot of negotiations going back and forth for weeks now. And you've seen even the Biden administration, even Blinken, even sort of warn Hamas. This has been reported through Axios and other sources that they were going to have to, the Hamas leaders are going to have to leave Doha if they didn't accept the proposal soon. So it looks like there could be potentially a game of telephone where Hamas is saying, oh, sure, we agree to a proposal, but it happens to be a proposal that Israel has not seen or agreed to yet. Why would they do that? I think the reason that they would likely do that, Jillian, is because they realized over the weekend how serious Israel was being. They started telling Palestinians, Gazans to leave the area. Over the weekend, they dropped leaflets in Arabic. They sent text messages in Arabic.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Hold just for a second. Matt Miller's talking about this very thing in the State Department.
As you know, Director Burns is in the region working on this in real time. We will be discussing this response with our partners over the coming hours. We continue to believe that a hostage deal is in the best interests of the Israeli people. It's in the best interests of the Palestinian people. It would bring an immediate ceasefire. It would allow increased movement of humanitarian assistance, and so we're going to continue to work to try to reach one.
And so maybe you haven't made any determination about whether whether they're accepting what is on the table or they're accepting something that is.
We have only received the response in the last hour, 90 minutes, and as I said, are going through it now and discussing it with partners in the region, so I don't want to characterize the nature of that response just yet.
Thanks.
Shannon, go ahead.
Thank you. There have been some reports that from Israel that perhaps Hamas agreed to a proposal that was put together by Egypt and Qatar that was softer than the initial framework that was in the works last week. Is it possible that there has been a different proposal that the U.S. is not involved with tracking?
So I've seen those suggestions. I've seen some of those reports, and I hope you'll understand that because we are still reviewing the response that has come in, and because we are working on this in real time and trying to reach an agreement, I'm just going to decline to comment in detail about any of those reports. We're going to be discussing this response with our partners in the region in the hours ahead. It remains our top priority to try to reach a ceasefire agreement that will lead to the release of hostages, that will allow a surge of humanitarian assistance both into Gaza and allow it to move around inside Gaza. But I don't want to comment on any of the various reports about what they might have been responding to until we've been able to go through it in detail and come to a full understanding and discuss it with our partners.
All right, so the State Department holding their fire there on any kind of response to Hamas accepting the deal. Let's go back to Morgan Ortegas. This really seems to be a PR move on Hamas's part. The Hamas Gaza chief said, the ball is in the court. I think this agreement satisfies all parties.
You could not, listen, I couldn't have said it better. You just summed it up. That's exactly where I was going before the State Department spokesperson just gave the press conference briefing. It seems like Hamas realizes, especially, by the way, after they killed 4 Israelis over the weekend. And what were those Israeli soldiers doing? They were trying to deliver aid to the Palestinians that Hamas is supposedly, fighting for and defending, which we all know is a joke. And so now that Israel started sending out those text messages, warning in Arabic, telling people to leave Rafah, Hamas knows that an attack from Israel is imminent, so they're absolutely trying to change the PR game. I will remind everybody that last week there were proposals on the table that Israel agreed to, that the United States, even Tony Blinken, who's been not on the side of Israel, in my opinion, in these negotiations, even he agreed to thought it was a good ceasefire. Hamas rejected that last week, and then Hamas, of course, attacked the military aid convoys coming into Gaza. So the bottom line is they don't care about the Palestinian people. They don't care about Gaza. They only care about themselves. So the only time Hamas moves, John, is when they feel pressure.
Morgan, stand by one more moment, if you will. We're going to jump back into the State Department briefing and listen to Matt Miller about this.
What we do, you have people moving north to places where internal distribution lines are not currently set up, and you're going to have to try to reestablish those in the middle of conflict in Rafah. We think that'd be very difficult, if not impossible to do. So even absent this latest response, we have made clear that we do not support Israel launching a full-scale military operation in Rafah.
Sure. You just said that in terms of that's the standard U.S. position on this, but has there been any communication with the Israelis about in the past hours or so about the response from Hamas and how this affects the situation in Rafah? Is there a message?
I'm just not going to get into our those conversations. As I said, we just literally in the past hour, 90 minutes, received that response from Hamas in the first place. Of course, we will be discussing it with Egypt, with Qatar, with Israel, the 3 countries with whom we have been working throughout this negotiation process. But I don't want to get into the timing of those, but honestly, if those conversations have not already started, they will be ongoing in the next several hours. Fair.
Matt, under the current circumstances, do you still think a ceasefire is achievable based on what you know coming here?
What do you mean? Is a ceasefire achievable?
Like,
a ceasefire is what we are trying to achieve.
Yes, but I mean, over the weekend there was a quite impasse, and right now Hamas has accepted it. But from Israel, we're hearing that that's not the proposal that we sent. That's the softened version that throws into the whole thing into.
All right, well, we'll jump out of the State Department briefing here because clearly Matt Miller is not prepared to make any kind of substantive statement about where Israel and the U.S. stand with this news that Hamas has accepted this ceasefire. Israel suggesting that it is something of a watered-down version of something that came out earlier that wasn't acceptable. Morgan, I would assume that the only thing that Israel would find acceptable would likely be a cessation of violence in exchange for the return of all hostages, and then a future determination on how this thing ends.
Well, just to remind everybody, that would include 5 Americans. We still have 5 Americans that are left behind and in flight that are held hostage by the terrorists. And we also know that there's sadly a number of bodies that the Israelis want to recover as well. Hamas has really put Bibi Netanyahu and the war cabinet in a pickle because, the war cabinet has told the Israeli people, we will finish Hamas militarily, we will eliminate the threat. They have to go into Rafah in order to finish Hamas militarily and eliminate the threat. However, the Israeli population definitely, absolutely wants their hostages home, wants their people home. So what was interesting to me about the press conference is they didn't talk about these ceasefire various deals, but they did reiterate, Matt Miller there, the State Department spokesperson, did reiterate the administration's opposition to Israel going into Rafah. I think it's very dangerous. You've heard Republican senators criticize the administration over that position, and you've even seen the reports that the U.S. might be withholding military aid if Israel does go into Rafah, which puts Israel in a terrible predicament. But ultimately, they're going to have to destroy Hamas militarily if they keep the word to the Israeli people that the threat will not emanate from Gaza again.
All right, Morgan, we're going to leave it there. Thank you for taking time with us. Thanks for standing by as we jump to the state briefing. We appreciate it.
All right, the White House briefing's still ahead with more to come. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Cooperation with the resistance factions is going so well, Commander. Their soldiers seem to be a big help around here.
It's time.
5 Illyrium cores. Oh, yes.
For a fresh approach to dog food. Every day, more dog people are deciding it's time to quit the kibble and feed their dogs fresh food from the
Okay.
farm. Made by vets and delivered right to your door, precisely portioned for your dog's needs. It's an idea whose time has come.
My back got injured very bad. I was off work for about a year. I heard about Relief Factor from my wife. I took it every day, 3 times a day, for 3 weeks. Looked at her and I said, the pain is gone. And she said, I'm glad it helped. I said, no, you don't understand. It's gone.
You too can feel better every day with Relief Factor, a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Call or go online now for our 3-week
Talon rounds are good.
$19.95.
My hair started to thin.
We're definitely going to make a suit. I got 2 race already. Let's make 1 more suit.
Get started at Nutrafol.com/man.
I've never once had to wait for insurance to approve a test or approve a medication. We didn't have to worry about any of those things thanks to the physicians, and our family is forever grateful because it's completely changed our lives.
Hi, Grandma. I played baseball today.
Oh, that's great.
What position did you play?
First base. That's what Grandpa used
Low
to
and
say.
I know.
In our hearing,
Shave.
we allow us to use a regular phone. It made us feel isolated.
It became difficult to communicate with our friends and family.
Clear Captions was an easy solution for us.
Clear Captions provides captions on a phone, like captioning on your TV, so you can see what the caller is saying live as they say it.
Making it easy to understand and respond immediately.
There is no insurance or Medicare required. Clear Caption service is provided at no cost to you through a federally funded program. We deliver, install, and train you on how to use your phone, all at no cost to you.
Give your loved ones the independence and connection they deserve.
Call now to see if you qualify to get a Clear Captions phone at no cost to you. Call 1-800-979-0270. That's 1-800-979-0270.
Sick of being hot, fed up with fans and sky-high electric bills? Then you need Arctic Air Pure Chill, the personal space cooler that cools your place while saving you money. Just add water and turn it on. Pure Chill has 3 Arctic settings and is whisper quiet for a comfortable night's sleep. Place it in the living room and never break a sweat. Stay cool while you cook and breathe easy as it humidifies your room. Plus, our True Shield filter removes odors. Get your Arctic Air products online or at these fine retailers.
Tommy Copper's Zip Up Full Back Support Shirt is redefining compression.
You do this, or this. Sometimes even this. Tommy Copper's got this.
The ultimate muscle-supporting, pain-fighting compression shirt that zips on easily.
So that you can do all this. Thank you, Tommy Copper.
Fight back pain. Go to TommyCopper.com and buy one, get one free today.
You need this. Trust me.
At Interactive Brokers, independent RIAs work with the best research and trading tools designed to help them outperform the markets. Meet them at Interactive Brokers Investors Marketplace for advisors. Advisors at Interactive Brokers keep all they earn on a low-cost platform with no ticket fees or custody charges, low margin rates, and high interest earned on idle cash. To get better results, get a better platform. The best informed investors choose Interactive Brokers.
We are awaiting an update from John Kirby at the White House after Hamas claims that they have agreed to the conditions of a ceasefire that were negotiated by Qatar and Egypt. Israel says the proposal is not acceptable, calling it a ruse to make Israel look like the side that's dragging its feet. I'm John Roberts as we kick off hour number 2. Good to be with you again.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me. I'm Jillian Turner in for Sandra. This is the second hour of America Report. So where does the White House stand right now, this hour, And is the Biden administration going to push our closest Mideast ally into brokering some kind of a deal? Let's go ahead and bring in Brent Sadler, who joins us with his thoughts on the current breaking news.
Well, I think you had guests on earlier that are basically calling this what it is. It's a ruse. It's a gambit by Hamas right now to buy for more time and to set up for a political circumstance that no matter what happens, Israel goes in or Israel delays, they still make Israel look like the aggressor in this case. Anything is further from the truth, and it only is delaying the inevitable destruction of Hamas.
You know, we had Senator Chuck Cotton on earlier, and he looked back on the World War II experience. Yes, right? There was unconditional surrender by Nazi Germany, unconditional surrender by Japan. Why isn't President Biden calling for an unconditional surrender by Hamas and release of all the hostages, end the war right then work together with the Arab nations on putting the pieces back together again? Because as long as Hamas is there, Israel's not going to stop.
So there's a couple of interesting points on this. One is behind all of the atrocities of October 7th, it's really the hand of Iran that's been behind all this. And Iran's efforts the last few months have also really rallied Arab countries to also start to support Israel. And remarkable in the tit-a-tat exchange of missiles between the two countries, Israel and Iran, recently. So there's an opportunity here for perhaps a new awakening in the Middle East that's favorable for Israel. Iran wants nothing of the kind. And so getting at that, I think, is really what, the big game. Really trying to find a lasting peace is really what we should be after. And the sooner that Hamas is destroyed and out of Gaza, the more likely that becomes.
Well, and perversely, regimes like Iran and China are not just offering support to, Hamas's allies in the region, they're offering support to the people that are promoting their interests here at home. They're now publicly throwing support behind these student protesters who are calling for death to all Jews in Israel.
Well, for those students who are being expelled, I would, it probably is the best place for them to go, unfortunately, with their ideology, unless they wake up. But I think the administration right now finds themselves in a situation where they are relying on an unsavory electorate that is aligned with the ideology of groups like Hamas. And they can't seem to get out of their own way and support what's right. That is the quick end of this war. Israel is an ally, has a lot of American interests that are on our side to see that they end up being victorious.
So I want to get back to the point that you were making earlier about Iran. Iran obviously wants to keep the instability going in Gaza. What happened a few weeks ago proved that Iran literally cannot lay a glove on Israel, despite how much it throws at it. So I still don't understand why the Biden administration isn't saying, look, Iran's a toothless tiger. Let's help Israel get rid of Hamas, and then we'll rebuild the West Bank and Gaza to the best of their abilities to see if there could be some sort of peaceful coexistence between Jews and Palestinians.
No, I think that's probably the nightmare scenario that's playing out in Tehran right now, and that is that their proxies start to fold up or start to go their own separate ways, because the longer that this goes on, the weaker the IRGC's hand is in places like Yemen and also in southern Lebanon with Hezbollah. And so I think also Iran, is starting to see and may also be behind
Dodge +5.
Hamas kind of looking for a way out. But right now, unfortunately, as long as there's protests and the perception of the American leadership is weak, I don't see any quick solution.
I asked Senator Cotton a question last hour that I want to circle back to with you, and that is, Hamas aside for a moment here, is there a way that the Biden administration and the Israelis can, working together strategically on the ground, move forward with this ground invasion in Rafah, which the Israelis say is absolutely necessary, and also do something to try and protect the 600,000 children that are there, reportedly, from getting, spun into this, more of them getting injured or killed, obviously without ceding ground to Hamas.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is this is a highly concentrated population in Rafah, in Gaza writ large. There is not going to be any antiseptic or clear, easy solution to this. It's going to be bloody. That's been known since the beginning, since Hamas launched their atrocities on October 7th. And everything in between has just postponed that, drawn out the suffering. What Israel has been doing that seems to be trying to mitigate some of the human suffering that's going to come, and that is setting up the camps to the east of Rafah and trying to get the Palestinians out of there in a controlled manner. But again, you've got 1.5 million that are supposedly still there, and you only have room for about 100,000 or so right now that are being asked to leave.
Yeah.
So it's still a very large problem. A lot of bloodshed is still very likely. But again, the longer this prolongs, the suffering is just prolonged longer, and it makes it less likely that a lasting peace is achieved.
Yeah, there's been a tiny sliver of land between Rafah and Israel down there in of Gaza. Let's not forget, too, at the same time, as we wrap this, that Hamas is feeling a lot of pressure because Qatar said if you don't get to a ceasefire, you got to leave. They went to Jordan, had it in hand. Jordan said,
Well, I got them all anyways.
they're
Shit.
feeling the pressure, too. Brett, thank you very much.
Yes, thank
Really appreciate it.
It's pointless.
Jackie Heinrich at the White House. State Department has said nothing about this deal. What are you getting from the White House?
Nothing, John. We have been trying for, over an hour now to get something on the record. Broadly, I have spoken with several officials. They're hesitant to say anything on the record because right now they're really working with Israel to figure out, what all Hamas is agreeing to, if it's even aligned with the kinds of parameters that the U.S. has put out there for a ceasefire proposal, which has to include release of hostages and more aid. It sounds like from the State Department briefing, one of the sticking points, could potentially be Hamas's desire to have Israel not have a presence at all in Gaza. And from the statements that they've been putting out, it sounds like Hamas has said, look, we'll agree if you continue to let us live on and let Hamas continue to survive and exist. And the U.S. has put forward, even though we have opposed publicly Israel's plans for a full-scale operation in Rafah without a mass evacuation and all the sort of things we've heard before. You heard Matthew Miller, interestingly enough, say that the U.S. has proposed a more limited operation and that Israel has the backing of the U.S. to go forward with that. And that sort of harkens back to what the president's first reaction was after October 7th, which was that if this happened to the U.S., we would respond swiftly and decisively, and we would eradicate the threat, and that Hamas cannot continue to exist. There won't be a two-state solution that involves Hamas serving in a political party. So that may be, what we're watching play out, is Hamas agreeing to something that really doesn't have the backing of the U.S. or Israel and isn't one of the proposals that has been, endorsed. We'll wait and hear in the White House briefing what they're able to say. I would expect it's going to probably be largely in line with what we've heard out of the State Department, because they said that they're working right now with regional partners to try to understand whether this is acceptable in any way. You have Bill Burns in the region trying to break this impasse that has happened over the last couple of days. And you notice that this morning, the president and Netanyahu had a 30-minute phone call, and the hesitation from anyone in the U.S. government to comment on this statement when it first came out is a very good indication that the U.S. believed that nothing was imminent. So we will find out more, hopefully, shortly, John.
Jackie, this is Jillian. Have you heard anything since Thursday, Friday, when we first learned that the Biden administration was considering bringing Palestinians, potentially thousands of them, from Gaza to the United States as refugees? Any updates or more information you're gleaning from your sources?
Nothing yet, but we know that any deal to bring Palestinians to the U.S. Would be complicated because it would require cooperation from Egypt. Egypt has not, until now, been eager to take in any refugees, and it would also require that the U.S. deem that those Palestinian refugees are fleeing persecution, which would put the U.S. in a very difficult spot, because we would have to say in some official capacity that Israel is persecuting Palestinians, which is something that the U.S. has not said. It has not bought into this idea that Israel is conducting a genocide. Israel is conducting a military operation to eradicate a terrorist organization that killed more than 1,000 civilians and broke a lasting ceasefire that was in existence right up until October 7th. So that would be a very tough pill to swallow, but obviously there's a struggle in the Biden administration when you see the public reaction, especially within the president's base, pressure on him to do more for flood the Palestinians in Gaza and to curtail some of the support that the U.S. has given Israel until now. We'll see what happens.
All right. And we're looking ahead to the White House briefing with John Kirby coming up. We'll let you get inside for that. Jackie, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, Hamas now says it has agreed to a ceasefire deal. We're waiting for reaction from the Biden administration, as Jackie just mentioned. Hamas also, as of now, not confirming they actually agree to any of the terms in the proposed ceasefire.
Plus, testimony about to resume in about 5 minutes' time at the Trump criminal trial in New York City, kicked off this morning, with the judge threatening the former president with jail time. Our legal panel of Mark Eiglarsh, John Spilbor, and Leo Terrell, all up next in the latest news.
There's no smoking gun here. And the most important thing to remember, aside from the fact that the president's presumed innocent, is that the prosecution has kind of cobbled this case together with duct tape.
Our biggest challenge? Uncertainty. In fees, surcharges, who knows what to expect? Turn shipping to your advantage.
Keep it simple with clear upfront pricing.
With USPS Ground Advantage.
Welcome to Stormy Heights, where the windows are always Pella. Pella's fiberglass is the strongest material for windows and patio doors. The fiberglass frame is even scratch and dent resistant. Pella Windows, tested for extremes, designed for your home.
Introducing Ned's Black Psoriasis. He thinks his flaky red patches are all people see.
Otezla is the #1 prescribed pill to treat plaque psoriasis. Otezla can help you get clearer skin. Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Serious allergic reactions can happen. Otezla may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Some people taking Otezla have depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur.
Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla.
Diabetes can serve up a lot of questions, like what is your glucose and can you have more carbs? Before you decide, with the Freestyle Libre 3 system, know your glucose and where it's heading. No finger sticks needed. Now the world's smallest and thinnest sensor sends your glucose levels directly to your smartphone. Manage your diabetes with more confidence and lower your A1C, the #1 CGM prescribed in the US. Try it for free at freestylelibre.us.
Are you satisfied with the results you get from expensive nutritional supplements that don't contain more than 12 minerals? Now try Amino 150 with its 70 minerals, 80 other nutrients. Look at the 2 videos on our website listed on the screen and consider placing an order online or call our toll-free number. And by all means, check the number of minerals in the product you take. I know you can be just as sharp and as healthy as I am and as good a shape when you're 90 years old if you consume a full spectrum of minerals every day. Order now. You'll be glad you did.
It's the BetMGM offer of the week. Get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. For all the games in the playoffs, set your picks and shoot your shot. And turn any game into a must-watch. Download the BetMGM app, and it's on. The border, the economy, foreign policy.
This is Joe Biden's all-new, radicalized Democratic Party.
What does it mean for the election? Get must-see insight tonight on Hannity. Why choose the Sleep Number Smart Bed? Can it keep me warm when I'm cold?
Reading positive story program. Work with our dogs by reading stories to them. Affects our dogs that make a very big difference with day-to-day mental health. Thank you for your support. It allows our therapy dog program to visit seniors, youth in need.
To resume any minute now in New York City, we expect the defense to continue cross-examination of the Trump Organization's one-time controller, Jeff McConney. This morning, the judge ruled that Trump violated his gag order for a 10th time now, threatened to throw the former president in the slammer if that continues. Nate Foy is live at the New York State Supreme Court in New York City. Nate, if you wanted to add 5 to 10 points to the president's popularity, go ahead and throw him in jail.
Oh, you can bet that a lot of people will feel that way, John. And former President Trump has complained about the gag order while walking into court today. He just walked in for the afternoon session and did not speak to reporters this time. It remains to be seen who will be the next witness on the stand after Jeff McConney, the Trump Organization's former controller that you mentioned, who testified this morning. He took questions from both former President Trump's lawyers as well as the prosecution, and he detailed payments to Michael Cohen, including from President Trump's personal account. He said Trump signed checks to Cohen from the White House, but the prosecution did not show that Trump was aware of any scheme to reimburse Cohen for payments to Stormy Daniels. Trump maintains that he thought the payments were legitimate legal expenses. McConney testified he never spoke to Trump about the Cohen payments. He didn't know what they were for, the payments to Cohen. During McConney's cross-examination, he said negative stories about Trump were bad for business, which provides another possible motivation for Trump that's unrelated to politics. And it comes after Hope Hicks testified Friday that Trump was very much concerned about his family rather than just his campaign. And as you mentioned before the break, John, today Judge Juan Merchan threatened Trump with jail time if he continues violating the court's gag order. Merchan held Trump in contempt of court for a comment that he previously made about the jury. Merchan fined Trump another $1,000 for that, but said today that it's clear fines are not working and he will consider jail time in the future. Judge Merchan said, quote, "The magnitude of that decision is not lost on me." So, again, former President Trump just walked back into the courtroom. The afternoon session should be beginning momentarily. We'll send it back to you, John.
Nate Foy with the update for us from outside the state Supreme Court. Nate, thank you. Shelley?
Right, for more on the trial, let's bring in attorneys Mark Eiglar, John O'Spilibor, and Leo Terrell. Thanks, guys, for being with us. John, I want to get your reaction first to what seems to me to be the headline news of the day, which is Judge Merchan's sort of threat to throw Trump in jail.
Yeah, yet another one. I'm feeling, Jillian, like this is watching Groundhog Day, because every day that the trial resumes, we've got a witness who gets trotted up, who testifies to nothing that has to do with any sort of crime. We've got somebody within the DA's office scouring the internet for any sort of tiny violation of this nebulous, unconstitutional gag order. And then we have Judge Merchan channeling his inner Napoleon complex to threaten the former president with more jail time.
Oh, I thought I had everybody loaded up on Overwatch.
What he should be doing, this
I guess not.
is taking a cue from all the legal pundits and perhaps people in his own world to maybe modify this gag order while this trial continues, because it is unconstitutional, and at some point, once this trial ends, those chickens are going to come home to roost, and this is going to come back to bite this judge.
Well, I'll tell you, in terms of chickens roosting, Leo, I would expect that if Judge Merchan were to make good on his threat and throw Trump in jail, he'd probably take in $15 million in campaign funds overnight, and it would be about the worst thing that could ever happen to President Biden.
I think you're absolutely right. You mentioned about him. Trump would go up 7 or 8 points in the polls. I disagree with you about the 15 million. It's more like 50 million if he throws Trump in jail. Trump will turn this into a fundraising bonanza. But seriously, John, you look at what happened today. Today, the prosecution took a step backward. You put out a case to try to convince the jury that there's a case. This witness is denying any existence between President Trump and any connections to any misconduct. He has no knowledge. So what did the prosecution accomplish today? Zero. This case is a loser. And I'll tell you right now, sooner or later, they're going to have to bring Michael Cohen to the witness stand. And I can tell you right now, the Trump defense team knows everything about Cohen. Expect Michael Cohen to be on that witness stand under cross-examination for 3 to 4 days.
So Leo's point, Mark, I want to pick up on something, and if I sound correct,
I'm going to kill you next.
When the prosecution here makes the case that Trump falsified documents, official documents, in order to interfere in the election, the two go hand in glove? Does prosecution need to prove that his motivation, his intent was centered on interfering in the election, or is that sort of like icing on the top? Is his motivation secondary to what they call the document falsifying?
It is a wonderful question, and it's all going to come down to the jury instructions, which enough people are not talking about. You know, if it's a murder case or a rape case or a child molestation case, there are standard jury instructions that the jurors must follow and know precisely what it is that's required. This case has never been brought. This is unbelievable. So you don't have standard jury instructions. You're going to have both sides saying, this is what I propose. No, this is what I propose. And so it's going to come down to the wording. Was it merely a consideration that he paid Stormy Daniels because of the election? Or should it be something that I believe must be proven, and that is, it was the primary, if not exclusive reason why he paid her off, which is something they cannot prove. Earlier, there's a myriad of other reasonable hypotheses of innocence, like protecting your family and protecting your brand.
Well, they're going to go further down this road with the next witness. The next witness is Deborah Tarasov. She was the Trump Organization accounts payable supervisor. The jury's not back in the room yet. They're still arguing over the exhibits, but she'll be brought in very soon. And then we'll go further down the road of forensic accounting, and there's nothing more interesting than that. John, when we're looking ahead, we talked about Michael Cohen. This is all set up so that Cohen comes in. He's supposed to deliver the knockout blow and put Trump, I don't know if he's going to be behind bars or a huge fine or whatever the prosecution's looking for. But listen to what Hope Hicks said about Cohen on Friday. The defense questioning Hope Hicks. He went rogue at times. Fair to say? Hope Hicks, yes. She goes on to say, I used to say he liked to call himself a fixer or Mr. Fix-It, and it was only because he first broke it that he was then able to fix it. So by the time, Jonathan, he makes it to the stand, he's going to be painted as an incompetent, a liar, a ne'er-do-well. How does the jury believe a thing that comes out of his mouth?
They probably won't. And that's why the prosecution is saving the worst for last, and that is Michael Cohen. I submit there is nothing that man is going to be able to say that will amount to or allow the jury to find that Donald Trump committed a crime. Look at all the evidence thus far. You cannot build a criminal case. You cannot get a guilty verdict. But all of the pieces of the puzzle, all of the elements that have been charged are not criminal. Nothing has changed that. And he's going to have to tell a tall tale, and which won't be believed because of his reputation, in order to give the jury pause. This is not, there's no crime here, and therefore Michael Cohen, their star witness, is not going to be a shining star at all.
Mark, I want to circle back to you real quick with this question about Judge Marchand's warning or threats, whatever you want to call it, again to Trump on violating the gag orders, insisting he will throw him in jail if he deems it necessary at some point. What would that move do to the court? What would the jury likely make of a development like that?
Well, it would be something that they should not know about. I mean, it has nothing to do with the underlying case itself and whether the prosecution can prove their case. It's something very separate. I would hope that jurors don't find out about it. And what he's doing, reminds me of when my kids were younger. First you put them in timeout, and if that doesn't work, you got to up the ante, right? You got to take their cell phone away. They're not going to go out this weekend. That's what the judge is doing. He doesn't want to do it. That's what he says he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to do it. Prosecution, I'm telling you, they don't want him to go to jail either. It's not going to be good for them. It's going to delay their case also.
Let's put a button on this with you, Leo. Just looking ahead to Deborah Tarasov's testimony here. Terry Kupek notes that the defense will likely try to make a case that she or her subordinate labeled the Cohen payments as legal expenses and or retainer, all of which happened without the knowledge of Trump. If they make that case, that would seem to be another bullet in the prosecution's case.
100% correct, John. That will be the first question out of the mouth of Trump attorney. Did Donald Trump have any involvement in the preparation of these documents? They're going to say, she's going to say no, and it's going to negate the prosecution direct examination. And judges made one point regarding Michael Cohen. Of the thousands of questions that the defense will ask him, when he raises his hand and says, you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, Trump's team is going to say, how many times did you do that and you lied? I mean, this case, there's no case. And it's just going to be over as soon as Michael Cohen gets on the witness stand.
Fucking prick.
John, it's going to be a zero gain for the prosecution.
All right, Leo, Jonna, Mark, thanks for taking time with us. Great to see you.
We'll see. We'll get those from the court in the minutes and hours ahead. As the Trump trial resumes, we're also keeping an eye on the White House briefing with John Kirby and Karine Jean-Pierre. It is set to begin at some point this afternoon, today, maybe this week. We expect news on the ceasefire talks in Gaza following the president's phone call with Bibi Netanyahu. Former White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany's got a few thoughts about this. She joins us coming up next.
Veteran homeowners. Car payments are getting out of control. Get a new Day 100 VA cash out loan at low mortgage rates to pay off those high rate car loans.
Call 1-888-928-2079.
Hi guys. Bill, you look great. Now that I have Inspire, I'm free from struggling with the mask and the hose. Inspire? Inspire is a sleep apnea treatment that works inside my body with a click of this button. Where you go? I'm going to get Inspire.
Learn more and view important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
My back got injured very bad. I was off work for about a year. I heard about a relief factor from my wife. I took it every day, 3 times a day, for 3 weeks. Look at her and I said, the pain is gone. And she said, I'm glad it helped. I said, no, you don't understand. It's gone.
You too can feel better every day with Relief Factor, a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Call or go online now for our 3-week quick start, just $19.95.
I've been cooking most of my life after seeing my parents cook, so I stuck with some of the Spanish traditions, some of the Cuban dishes, and I like to cook my own food because I want to know what's in my food. Balance of Nature, it's already incorporated into my diet. I've looked at other supplements out there, and they don't have what Balance of Nature has. So I am taking the initiative to stay on Balance of Nature forever.
Get 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Call or go to balanceofnature.com and use discount code Fox News.
I have type 2 diabetes, but I manage it right. It's a little pill with a big story to tell. I take once daily Jardians, and each day starts. I'm telling all you easy to see. I'm lowering my A1C.
Jardians works 24/7 in your body to plus also sugar. And for adults with type 2 diabetes and heart disease, Jardians can lower the risk of cardiovascular death.
Serious side effects may include ketoacidosis that may be fatal, dehydration that can lead to sudden worsening of kidney function, congenital yeast or urinary tract infections. A rare life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop Jardians and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. You may have increased risk for lower limb loss. Call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of infection in your legs or feet. Taking Jardians with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
Jardians is really self a little pill with a big story to tell.
I'm Jonathan Lawson, here to tell you about life insurance through the Colonial Penn Program. If you're age 50 to 85 and looking to buy life...
Fox News alert to the White House now in response on Hamas accepting the terms of the ceasefire.
Director Burns, as you know, is there, and he's working this in real time on the ground. I won't be able to comment any further on this until we know where things stand. I hope you can understand that. I know everybody's curious about what's in this response, what the Israeli reaction to it is. I'm just not going to get ahead of the process. We want to get these hostages out. We want to get a ceasefire in place for 6 weeks. We want to increase humanitarian assistance. And the last thing that I want to do is say anything at this podium that's going to put that process at risk. Regardless, as we said before, we still believe that reaching an agreement is the absolute best outcome, not only for the hostages, but for the Palestinian people. We're not going to stop working to that outcome. Now, as you know, the President talked with Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning. The call lasted about 30 minutes and was constructive. The President reaffirmed his message on Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day. The two leaders discussed the shared commitment of Israel and the United States to remember the 6 million Jews who were systematically targeted and slaughtered in the Holocaust, one of the darkest chapters in human history, and to forcefully act against anti-Semitism and all forms of hate-fueled violence. Of course, the two leaders spoke about our efforts to secure the hostage deal, including through these ongoing talks today. During the call, at the president's urging, Prime Minister Netanyahu agreed to ensure that the Kerem Shalom crossing is back open for humanitarian assistance for those who need it. And I also want to take a moment to address the latest reports now out of Rafah, which was also a topic of discussion on the call. I'll reiterate again that we cannot and we will not speak for IDF operations, but we've made clear our views about operations in Rafah that could potentially put more than 1 million innocent people at greater risk. During his call with Prime Minister Netanyahu, the president again made this clear. He also made clear that we continue to believe that the hostage deal is the best way to avoid that sort of an outcome while securing the release of those hostages. And as I said, those conversations continue. Just one more thing. President Biden hosted His Majesty King Abdullah II of Jordan for lunch at the White House that probably wrapped up here just recently. They discussed the strong partnership between the United States and Jordan. They also spoke about the situation in Gaza, of course, including efforts to secure the hostage deal and to get more humanitarian assistance into the civilians of Gaza. We're going to have a more detailed readout of that conversation here very, very soon. Just don't have it right now, but you'll be seeing it shortly.
As far as you can tell, which proposal did Hamas accept?
I'm not going to get into that, Steve.
Issue over how long a ceasefire would last.
Again, you're asking me for the parameters around the response and the deal itself, and I'm just not going to do that.
Lastly, Israel has told the people that Rafah to evacuate. Does that presage a post-calendar? What do we see?
As I said in my opening statement, I'm not going to speak for IDF operations or their military intentions and plans. They should be the ones to answer those kinds of questions. What I can only reiterate is that we've been consistent, and the president was consistent again this morning, that we don't support ground operations in Rafah. That would put the majority or even many of the civilians there at any greater risk. We want to see their safety and security allowed for and factored in.
Noting your caveats at the top, are you able to say whether Hamas was agreeing to something that had
Let's save it.
Again, without
We're in a good spot.
And Director Burns,
And we'll catch you guys next time, all right? Peace out.
there have been
Fucking nobody watched this shit anyway.
talks here.